Hey, don't climb on that. Ah, that's a lot better. If that first scene was all too familiar to you, stick around. I got your solution here. This will help keep him off those stairs. But there's a problem with it. This is a spiral staircase, and this is meant to attach to two walls, and I don't really want to drill any holes in the metal of this case, so I'm going to have to fabricate some sort of wood contraption to go along this rail and this pole to support this gate for the next couple of years until he can actually climb these stairs and make it look somewhat decent, since it'll be here a while. Alright, so my plan of attack, because I work pretty well with wood, was to make some wooden clamps of sort that the gate could mount to, and the clamps would basically go around the poles of the metal staircase. So I started off by using the template provided with the gate to make the piece that the gate would actually fasten to, and then I'll make the clamps out of wood around this. As you may have noticed, I'm laying this out on the thin side of a 2x4 rather than the face, and this is to allow me to use a longer screw, which will make the gate more robust in how it's anchored to this wood. Alright, so I got these pieces of 2x6 that I'm actually going to use to go around the pole, and I went in and I basically marked what the width of the pole is. So it's a 4 inch wide pole. This is the center line of every board, and that's going to be the edge of the pole. And so on this one I went ahead and found the center of these sections, and that's where the bolt holes are going to go. But what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to use a shaping wheel to actually grind out some of this center section so that it kind of fits to the concavity, or it's more concave, so it fits around that pole nice, rather than just having like a single point of contact with that pole. After I was done with the shaping wheel, off camera I used a trim router with an 1/8 inch roundover bit to knock off all the sharp edges of these blocks. I then went over to the drill press where I drilled out the holes for one block that I actually marked them out on, and then I used that block as a template to make all the holes for the remaining blocks. Alright, so I came inside to fit these up, and I realized I have made a mistake that I must go back to the store now to remedy. Whenever I cut these notches out in this wood to get it to sandwich on the pole better, I effectively brought these pieces closer together, and so the bolts I bought were 8 inches, and so now you can see the threads do not go all the way up to the wood. So I need to go and get a 7-inch bolt instead, so that I can get a good clamping force on these pieces. It's not a real DIY project unless you have some sort of setback, am I right? Anyway, the next thing I did is use this rubber matting, and this is the type of rubber matting that you would basically line the bottom of a tool chest drawer with, and I cut some swaths of this out that would actually be sandwiched between the pole and these low spots of the blocks to help protect that pole from getting scratched up over time. Alright, so this is the design I came up with to anchor the side on this handrail. What I'm going to do is take this horseshoe piece and put a little piece of rubber in there. It's going to go around the pole. Another piece of rubber will go on this side to protect the entire pole. And then a piece of 2x4 will come on this side. And I will run a couple bolts through the inside of this. To this side, and they will hold this piece in place without any bolt head being on the outside, preventing anybody's hands from getting cut up or anything like that. And then on this side of the longer 2x4, I'll mount my hardware to latch the gate. It took me a couple times to get the dimensions right on this piece, but now that I have the dimensions right, I can go ahead and cut my second one. I don't need these anymore. And since I didn't show you how to cut the first one, I'll go ahead and show you now how I cut this out. The inside dimensions of this piece need to be very snug around that pole, so the dimension this way is actually the exact width of the pole, but the dimension this way is an 1/8 inch thicker to accommodate each piece of rubber, so that's an 1/8 inch times 2, which is a 1/4 inch bigger than what the dimension of the pole is. Once I had those dimensions laid out, I was able to cut it down to length at the miter saw, and then I could cut out the interior piece at the bandsaw. So normally this is the part where I would say I don't paint, but Lauren's watching after our sick kiddo, so today I paint.
I just hit these with one coat of black primer, and then I used Rust-Oleum's Hammered Metal paint. It's a spray paint that actually gives it kind of a metallic look. I've used this before and it actually does look like metal. So I got a color that closely matched our staircase and did my best to make it blend in. But there's only so much you can do trying to hide wood grain. Now the height of our stair steps is almost the exact width of one of these 2x6s. So I did the final fitment and sizing whenever I was actually doing the install.
So Lauren's gonna hate me, but I'm about to turn our kitchen into my workshop just for a second. I just need to attach this upper piece to the 2x4 that I have. Since I did already pre-paint this, I just kind of scuffed it up a little bit and got some of the wood to show through on both pieces. That way the wood glue that I put on will actually soak into the wood a little bit, but really it's gonna be the screws holding it in place for the most part.
Check out the little man in the background there. He's a natural. Now getting the gate hung wasn't too bad, but getting the gate level, well, that took the whole damn family. I wound up just putting a level on the top, and one person would kind of help hold the gate level while the other person would tighten down the bolts on the clamps around the pole. Now for the mounts on the other side, I knew that they were a little thin on the front edge, and so I went ahead and pre-drilled holes and set my screws beforehand, and I was going to try not to torque them down too much, but it didn't take much at all, and this happened.
Well, so I broke this, and I'm gonna 100% say that's because I didn't drill a pilot hole beforehand, but I've gone ahead and I've added a pilot hole now.
Like I said earlier, it's not a DIY project unless you got some sort of a setback. So my thought process to install this after it broke was just to snug down the two screws, and that would leave a little bit of a gap that I could get some glue in, and then I would use two clamps with some masking tape to protect the painted surfaces and clamp it down and let it sit overnight, and we'll see what happens. So I work at a nuclear power plant for my regular job, and we have a buzzword we like to use called operating experience, or OE for short. This is basically learning from other people's mistakes. Use it or be it, they say. So fortunately / unfortunately for me, I have my own OE from installing this upper mount that will help me prevent breaking the lower one. However, I still over tightened it.
Yep.
Now I'd like to say I have OE on how to fix this problem from the top, but I still haven't even seen how that's turned out yet. So we're just going to apply the same technique here, and we'll find out if they're both fixed in the morning.
Alright, so I let these dry all night to give that glue a good chance to set up. So now's the moment of truth. Let's see if it held. Well, that one's looking pretty good. Nice. And that's the one I was worried about the most, so this one should be good. That one actually slipped off overnight. Nice. Yeah, that'll work. And like I said, these aren't going to take a whole lot of beating, so I'm not too worried about if they aren't completely solid, but that looks pretty good for what we're doing. Oh yeah, awesome.
Now it was time to just install the final bit of hardware, and we were ready to rock and roll. So in total, this project cost about $80, and you can see the full breakdown of those costs in the description below. But what we gained is pretty much priceless. We were able to successfully block off the stairs from our little one in a robust way without having to actually drill into the metal casing of the staircase. Now, if you want to build a safe way for your child to climb on things, check out this video here. Otherwise, until next time, take a chance and make something.
He's so sad, huh?